Test. Good morning, everyone. Come on in and grab a chair where you can. We apologize. We didn't expect the box office sales to go as well as they did. You're not here to hear me, I'm sure. We've got the folks from Zest, Tony, Tanya, and we've got our committee along the front here, Ray. And Brianne. Brianne is a very crucial part of the operation because she records everything. I'm getting prompted here, so I'm just going to excuse myself. Never having done this on a Wednesday morning, apparently I have a request to please silence your phones. And we've got major turnout, so if you're at the back and you need a chair, if you're sitting and you don't need a chair, it's probably more appropriate. Please stand and allow someone who is maybe not able to stand for a long period to take a chair. So I know we're not quite 10 o'clock, and I know that there will be some people coming in at 10. However, I think we've got a pretty major turnout right now, so I'm going to start proceedings right now. We are here because last October there was a very sparse turnout for a number of reasons for the annual general meeting of the Residents Society. So we felt better to have a meeting that's not 2 years from the last well-attended meeting. So we're having the first semi-annual general meeting. The questionnaires or the announcement of this meeting went out in February, and we were very pleased with the response that people gave to the request for questions. Tanya and her staff have done their best to put answers to all of the questions, or as many as could be answered. Some of the questions that were posed were of a property-related nature, and Tanya's staff have taken it upon themselves to take action where needed to respond to those questions. So today's format, we're going to have, and I'm not sure what the order of appearance, Tanya first, Tony second, leading up to the big guy. And sorry?
We'll take turns, we'll both go up.
Well, okay, yeah, so you can spot back and forth.
When I lose my voice, Tony will take over.
Okay, very good. So without further ado, I'll give you a little bit of background about the committee first. We are a committee of 12. 12 folks along the front here, some of whom you may know, and I'll introduce Fred Wissens, Bob Griffiths, Margaret Kastner, this quiet lady here, I think everyone knows her, Lynn McDonald, sorry, it's Kathleen Ashford. Pitter patter, let's get at her. I hear that every Tuesday at darts. Doug Brown, Graham Kilburn, Andy Lim, and Doug Thompson. And I'm your president by default, Dave Hood. Yeah, we have two other members of our committee that are absent because they're enjoying the warm weather elsewhere. And it's
Colleen LaChapelle.
Colleen LaChapelle, how could I forget, and Lynn Packman. So, as I said, we've got a committee of 12. We have elections which will take place this year at the October general meeting. And there'll be 4 positions, 4 people who have completed 3 years, a semi-life sentence on the committee. And they'll, if they want to, they can stand for re-election, but we're also looking for any new folks on the committee to add some life to the committee, and new ideas, new voices, always appreciated. So without further ado, I'll ask for Tanya Peary and Tony DeFuscio to come to the front. And
so nice to see everybody out. I was hoping we'd have sunshine, but it's close enough. It's springish. I promise it's on its way. We had that nice couple of days, and then we slipped right back into this damper, colder weather. Huge thank you to the Resident Society. They've done a great job. I don't know if you know how much time and effort they put into looking after your interests, but they meet regularly, they meet monthly, they take detailed minutes, they make sure they meet with us to follow up on any items of concern and help advocate for anything. And they put forward some great recommendations and things, so kudos to this committee. I know it's not all fun and games. It's a lot of work, but Kathleen says she only does things she likes now, so it can't be that much work, because she still likes it. I guess it's still on the like list. So, but it's huge kudos to this group, because they do great work, and they really do try to advocate for things, and they work so nicely with resident services to help make it a better place to live and to work. So our deep appreciation to them, and our deep appreciation to you for all coming out. It's nice to see so many people out, so many people that we ran out of chairs. I think there's one there, maybe one back there if you're looking for a seat. Thank you to those who sent questions in advance. So what I have done is sort of, because some of the questions are similar in nature, so we're going to answer it on a village basis. We won't speak to an individual property question. So if it was about your specific eaves or your specific door, it may have been addressed. If it's that, just put in the work order or come and see us at Resident Services, and we'll deal with those. But I will have added it as a topic in general if it's an overall concern. Okay, and we have about, 19 topics of interest. So we're gonna stick to it. We're going to take turns on these. I'll do a bunch, then I'll pass it off to Tony, and he'll pass it back, and hopefully you'll feel more informed by the time we're done. So the first topic was about the Health and Wellness Center needs, things like equipment, hours of operation, and things like that. So some additional equipment was recently added based on some feedback that we have received. But we're also having Sasha send out a survey, probably come out next week, about the health club and the activities in the village to get more of your specific feedback. So stay tuned via email. She'll also come to a coffee hour and bring paper copies, so we can find out if there's things you're looking for from the health club or from the activities in general in the village, so that we can make sure that we're meeting everybody's needs as best we can. We did add a second set of weights. We added another bike and some other equipment recently to the gym, and we are looking at changing how the access. So right now we have fob access to the main health club door. We're looking at putting fob access to the pool doors as well, so that we can extend hours for the gym and still keep the pool secure. So stay tuned for that. Our IT team is just working on the quotes for that, and hopefully we can get something like that implemented, and that'll give us some more flexibility. The Hardy schedule. I know everybody is so anxious to get Hardy. This question is a hard one for us, because we can't do all 558 at once, and I know everybody's hoping. So the good news is that the pandemic really slowed down Hardy, and it certainly made the prices skyrocket. So Hardy, I shouldn't say Hardy. That is the cladding on the outside of the home when we reface them. Sorry, my apologies. I saw some people look at me, and that's what happens when you start to use acronyms and things you talk about in the office, right? So it's that it looks like wood, but it's made out of concrete, and it's painted board, and it's beautiful. And everybody is anxious to know when their house is getting done. So the slowdown with the pandemic and the pricing going high The good news is that Tony has actually taken that in-house and has built a team within Zest that is now doing the hardy work here on site. So we're not waiting for external contractors, it's now internal crew. So they've just started this spring. They've just finished a couple of blocks. They're working, I believe, on Cardinal and Senti, and then moving over to Gates. They will have a plan for how they work through the village. We hope to expedite the hardy work. We'll send a letter if your block is getting done a few weeks or so in advance with a rough timeline. It's always weather dependent. If it's raining a lot, they're not doing it, that kind of thing. And I know there was a question about, are we gonna start to do the backs? Well, we really should finish everybody's fronts before we do backs, so I appreciate that some people are already so anxious to do their backs. But we're doing the fronts first. We're gonna try to get everything done over the next few years. So stay tuned, but we're hoping that this year you see a lot more progress in it. Okay, we're not gonna take questions. We're gonna go through all of our questions and answers because the
Be readdressed at the end of the meeting. I live at 40 McKenna, and there's a serious problem with the hardy installation on my house.
okay, we can come back to it.
I think the entire village needs to know that.
Okay. We can circle back to that at the end, if that's okay, Dave? Is that fine? Okay. All right, so, there was, I'm moving on to the next topic of safety concerns, talk of calming strips and crosswalks, different lines and those types of things. So we did receive quotes for line painting, and there will be some lines painted at different stop signs and near Father Byro, some parking lines. So that's being done in May. I've lost where Brienne is, but what?
Father Byro, the one-way roads will be done on May 1st.
May 1st, and then I think they're coming back on May 4th.
May 4th for the main parking lot
Yeah.
and the crosswalk. And
Crosswalk,
the pedestrian,
church.
Yeah.
Yeah, so coming soon is some new line painting. We know it's, we're anxious, they'll be done, the lines as you enter where the gates come in and things, a center line, that kind of thing. So in May, you'll see the line painters here. There will be notices in certain areas just if we need cars to move, just for that day while we have the line painters there. So Brianne will make sure that Resident Services sends a note out to you if your area is impacted or if we need a car to move, that kind of thing. We've also looked into some other traffic calming measures. We've investigated a new camera with a plate reader. We could contact our friends at the police department to set up a speed trap if that's of interest to you. We can put that in the survey if you'd like. I'll add that as one of the survey questions. I see half the room laughing, but I think it might have been a request of somebody, so we'll put it in the survey and see how many of you would like us to have a speed trap. I'd really appreciate we all just slow down. That would be great. One of the things that our IT department has been working on is improving our camera systems in the village, particularly around the entry and exit points of the village. And one of the things, the new cameras, as you'll see, they're just starting to install now. They just dropped off a boom this week, so I'm hopeful that next week that means things happen with cameras. The new cameras will have license plate readers at the gate areas. And so the advantage of that will be not so much for you guys, your fobs will work the same way and your hanging tags and stickers and all those things, but we're hoping to get all the plate numbers from the EMS people and that it would automatically open the gates when it read one of those license plates numbers. So we're very excited about that and think that will be a huge improvement. So Martin and Norm have been working on that and we're excited that that's coming to fruition. I'm gonna pass it off to Tony for a few minutes to talk about a question around pond dredging.
Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing today? Great to see, great turnout. It's what our village is all about, right? The more participation, the better we get. So thank you for participating and coming out and helping us work through some of these items to make your life better here and make the village the greatest place to live, which it already is, maybe just a greatest place to live, right? So the pond dredging, this is something that's been going on since, for 10 years now, since we took over the village. We've been working with the city. They were actually working with the Home Society before we took over, and we took that over. They said they were going to dredge it and have never shown up. So now we've, in the midst of our severances and rezoning of the lands, they have used that excuse as to why they're not coming out and doing it. They promised to do it, I think it was 2 years ago, they were supposed to be out, guaranteed we're coming this year, and they never came. So suffice to say, I can't get into detail, we actually hired a lawyer about a year ago, and we're gonna do whatever we have to do to get this thing done. So hopefully they'll kind of get their heads around the fact it has to be done. I want it done. It can't get done fast enough. Our ponds could be absolutely gorgeous if we can get them dredged out, and they're already beautiful, but we can certainly have a much nicer environment if they were dredged as they should be. Also the plan, and so it is their responsibility, it's not ours as a community's responsibility. They use our ponds as storm ponds. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So before we ever got here, many of the subdivisions around us hooked into our system, their storm systems into our ponds. And that's what causes so much sediment in our ponds. It's not from our own use of our ponds within our village, it's water coming from a very large area. I don't recall, don't quote me on this, but it's in the thousands of homes that are hooked up into our system. So it is the city's responsibility. And so we're gonna take them to task on it. So bear with me. I apologize it's taken so long. Hopefully we can get things resolved in the upcoming year or two, and force them to get it done. And it's something that I will be very happy when we get that done. Is there something? Did I miss something? You got the hook already.
I've learned after years that if I just keep them on task, people know what I'm talking about. There was a question about, is Zest paying common maintenance fees on empty units? Yes, I chase Tony down every month for that money. He always pays on all the vacant units. So if a unit is vacant, they pay maintenance fees just like you do on your home. So we collect, NARCA collects maintenance fees on all units, every unit in the village, whether it is been vacated and being renovated or whether you live in it. And then all that money goes to maintaining the gated area of the village, not the non-gated area. So things outside the gates is not NARCA's money. We use the NARCA CAM funds for things within the gated area. Along that same topic, there was a question about sales and transfer fees. Those fees do not go to NARCA. That is not part of the resources that we use to pay for the village. And those fees are outlined in your life lease agreement. So you can look at your legal agreement that you signed when you moved in, and those transfer fees are outlined there.
What's NARCA?
NARCA is Novacare Retirement Communities Association. That's the nonprofit that looks after all of the funds, all of the common area maintenance fees for the village. So that's resident services basically. That's the fancy name that we got when we started here, and we mostly go by resident services, but the business name is Novacare Retirement Communities Association. But we just say resident services because it's quicker. And there was a request for financial statements. We don't have this year's. The auditors are in process with the information from this year's, but if you are looking for last year's, the resident services office has them. They can email them out to you. We have emailed them out to several people, and the rest of your fees are outlined in your lease agreements. So I'm going to move on to lighting and some specific lighting concerns and general lighting concerns. So there was a light out by the barn. We put some temporary lighting motion sensor in. Thank you for the clapping over there. But they will be replacing that light as one of the 24, 25 lights we're having replaced. You'll see them on site next week, removing some light pole bases and light things, and then they'll put up nice new ones. Our goal is to continue to do about 25 every summer season, and then eventually we'll be up to snuff. You'll see that we've done quite a few over the last few years, so the hydrovac should be on site next week, starting that work. So if you see a hydrovac truck and wonder what are they doing, they're fixing our electrical lines that go to light poles and then installing new light poles and bases. So good news on that. There is a question about sidewalk repairs and things, sidewalk and streets. So if you have a concern about a sidewalk or a street repair, please let us know. We do prioritize them, try to do a visual inspection of the whole village. And then we schedule repairs and replacement. So we go by what the current condition of the sidewalk is, whether or not how big of a risk it is, those kinds of things. And we review to prioritize all of the sidewalks in the village. I know there's a couple of areas that we're going to start on soon. Father Barrow, there's an area that was iced up that will be replaced shortly. Part of Wayland's sidewalk, one part was done last year, but there's a really long list that I did not bring with me. But if you have questions about sidewalk repairs, just bring them into the resident services office, and they'll be happy to address that. Parking on the west side of Bishop Sherlock, there was some suggestions, great suggestions sent. So we made some adjustment to some signage, so there's a little bit more parking on that road that goes up to the barn there, so that's now available for some parking. We're always looking to increase parking in the village, especially now. It used to be back in the day, not everybody had multiple vehicles and things at homes, and you can see it's more common for people to have 2 cars. So there's a few areas of the village that we're examining to see if we can add a couple of parking pads, but we appreciate your patience while we try to get there. We also want to make sure we get all your roads and sidewalks fixed too, so we're always mixing priorities with that, but we're conscious of the fact that there's some areas in the village that are tight on parking. So it is in our list of things to do. Just a quick reminder to please not park in front of fire hydrants, even if it's tight on parking. It is still the same as the city rules here in the village, so please keep your fire hydrants open for the fire department. You don't want to park there anyway. Dave tells me that if the fire department comes, they'll go right through your window, and nobody wants that. So remember to just follow the same safety rules you would outside the village when you're in the village. There was some concerns about some debris in the areas with Christmas and the shop and those things. I think the team has addressed them, but if you have a specific concern, please let resident services know. I've had them out, making sure that they're on top of that, but we appreciate the feedback. I know that Christmas took a while this year to get down. We'll get better at it. It was the first year we had those new displays, and we're wrapping our head around storage and moving of those items, so we're sorry that it took a little bit longer. We'll be quicker next year, but we appreciate the feedback, so we'll keep working on that. The next topic is around bird feeders. This is one that I'm going to have put in that survey that's going to come out to all of you, because I kind of need the whole village's feedback. We did visit this a few years ago with the Resident Society, probably 5 or 6 years ago now. And a decision was made that if they were squirrel proof and that sort of thing, that they were acceptable, that if anybody noticed any that weren't, to call resident services and we would intervene. There's some mixed feedback on whether or not people still want that or don't want that. So I'm going to include it in the survey and get everybody's sort of consensus of what direction we should go, and try to do our best to meet the needs of the majority when it comes to bird feeders.
Tanya, number 10.
Thank you. I skipped one. That's why, see, takes a team. There was a request about getting an automatic door opener for the door to this room. Tony's going to hit this topic later on about Trillium renovations, I think, but we will be renovating the Trillium pretty extensively, hopefully not too far in the future. So I don't know if we want to invest in that right now. It's something we could look at and talk about, but I'm not sure that everything will land up in the same layout that it is today. And so I don't know if it's a good time to invest in the automatic door opener. I appreciate that it would be more accessible. It does have that nice foot to keep open for now, but I do appreciate the feedback, and certainly after any renovations, we would make sure all the doors have buttons and are accessible going forward. So it's a great suggestion. And thank you, Brianna, for keeping me on track. tree planting. And it's very fair feedback. Over the last few years, we've been focused on removing some trees that were unhealthy and not alive. So there's been quite a few of those go over the last few years. So we have a plan this spring by June, when it's just a little bit drier than it is right now, to plant several different trees, around a dozen to 2 dozen trees in common areas. Some specific native species and some flowering plants and trees. So the landscape team is working on the plan for that, so you'll see those. If it's something you're looking for around your specific front or back lawn, that's a renovation request, and you can get those from resident services. There's a concern about litter, particularly on garbage and recycling day. I think that's a universal. I can tell you in my neighborhood in Ingersoll, similar concern. I have concerns on garbage day about the recycling blowing around. So we'll encourage our team to make a concerted effort. We do seem to get the highest winds in the village. I don't know why it is that we keep all the winds here. And then we like to blow everything around a lot. So I will talk to the team to see if they can, especially around that day of the week, to make a better effort to try to keep an eye on those things. It is hard to keep up with the recycling on the windy days, so we will do our best to assist with that. In line with that, the landscaping team will be attending to all of the weeding and gardening, including Gibbons Squares. We're in the process right now of hiring additional summer helpers that will be focused on beds and borders and garden beds and things like that. So they usually start, depending on whether they're a high school student or a university student, some will start in May and some will start in June, and that will be their main focus, will be those things. I'm gonna pass it off to, okay, all right, I will keep going. Tony, see, slave driver. The retirement residence update, even though this AGM is actually about the village and the common areas and everything, we had quite a few requests just for a quick update. I did share one a little while ago at a coffee hour, but I just wanted to explain that yes, the retirement residence is under some pretty major renovations. The team is doing their very best to try to minimize impact, but there is impact from renovations. It's hard to renovate a concrete building and not have the transfer of sounds and things. We have discontinued what is called the transitional care bed program that operated on the 2nd floor. That program was specifically for ALC patients. ALC is one of those healthcare terms, on alternative level of care, mostly for people who were in hospital waiting for long-term care. It was a government-funded bed program that we have that we're no longer operating. So that we're just doing regular retirement home beds and not that higher level of hospital need. And along with that, we've leased out the 3rd and 4th floor to the Home Society, and they came and did a presentation at coffee hour as well. They use something called the greenhouse model, and if you Google it, you'll see lots of information in the States about it especially. So they're introducing it here. They're calling it the Sanctuary. In case you see a poster and you're wondering what that is, that's just their name for what their program is. So they're calling it the Sanctuary, and it operates on a bit of a different philosophy. There'll be 12 residents per floor. They'll have a shared kitchen and shared living room, the kind of thing, activities areas. So they sort of all live together and live like as if they were in a house together on those floors. So the lower level dining room has been redone. It has all new doors and windows. Next step will be starting work on that sunken garden that is just outside of those beautiful new windows. We've just had a meeting with residents and gotten some feedback about how they want to see that. The lobby permit has been issued, so there will be renovations to the new lobby. The front of the building will be extended to enclose the area that is the little green steps right now. I'm going to assume they won't be green when we're done. So it'll be a glassed enclosed so that when you get out of your vehicle, you won't have to do anything in the outdoors on stairs or anything. There'll also be a lift put in the lobby so that if you're unable to do a stairs, you can use the lift. Both elevators have been completely replaced, so not just refurbished inside, they're all new mechanicals, and they're done and they're lovely. They're gonna install new doors on the lower lobby as well as a new intercom system in the building. The renovations in the part of the building we refer to as the annex is where the old cafeteria and auditorium used to be. It's almost completed. There'll be 15 new suites. They'll be available very soon. So we will have, I think, a bit of a ribbon cutting and things, but if you're interested, you'll be able to book a tour through the retirement residence and add it, to a wait list or any of those types of things. Okay. Your turn? Okay.
Thank you, Tanya. She doesn't need me anymore. I figured that out. That's a good thing, though. I want to sit out there with you. In fact, Dave, thank you for the comment that the young people will stand. This doesn't apply to me. Maybe you're talking about Tanya. Not me anymore. I wish I could say I was included in that group, but oh well. And just to add on the retirement home, Zest has made a commitment to invest a lot of money in that. It's going to be gorgeous, and we're still aimed at. Somebody did bring up to me, well, it's going to be really expensive now. We're still planning to be in the affordable value range. So compared to everybody else, we are way cheaper, and we'll continue to ensure that it's affordable. But the space needed it. It's over 40 years old, and it's been delayed for so long. And we just said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. So we probably will likely do is have an open house when probably as in phases, because there's so much of it being done. When the annex is done, we'd love to have people come over, check it out. It's beautiful. It's going to be gorgeous. The new dining room, the lobby will be starting in about a month. So all this is happening very quickly. And it sounds like a great news story, but it also is disruptive to the residents. We get it. They've told us. They really told us. And we're dealing with it the best we can, and we're ensuring that our staff and our subcontractors understand that you're working in someone's home here, and that you have to be respectful of that, and do the best we can to be the least disruptive. So if you have any loved ones in there, I apologize for the disruption, but we'll do the best we can, and hopefully we can get her done as quickly as possible. So get on with enjoying that.
I have a question, please. The outside of the facade of the building is quite gray. Will it be sandblasted or something to make it look newer?
Yeah, so for those of you who have followed all the new development and what we've done in the village, we use a consultant called Foric. They are designed, so they designed for instance, the Upper Mill Pond building, and that's why it looks so gorgeous. And they do, the reason we seek them out is because essentially they do resorts and theme parks. That's kind of one of their biggest things. So, not that I want to turn this into a theme park, although people would argue I am. Maybe just a bit. But no, this is a resort, and we want it to look like a resort, and you can enjoy your space much better if you have that beauty and that design that really encourages that participation in the resort lifestyle. And so we've had them working on it now for about 6 months. We're looking at what we can do with it. Unfortunately, we're starting with a really ugly building. We've got to call it what it is. Our first step was get the inside done. That's the most important thing. But the design's being done with a view to getting it prettied up. We will share that with you as part of it's kind of part of all the new development stuff that's hopefully getting put back on the front burner now. So, which is a good segue, thank you, into my next piece. So on the new development side, there's a question whether the mixed residential units, so this is talking about Town Square, so the northeast corner, the empty field where the barn is, that empty field there is, and they didn't allow me to bring any PowerPoint presentations or anything because they said it would take too long. So, but we will be having a more comprehensive review of it. We did a lot of this when we first started designing it. The city's taken way longer than it should have, but it looks like we've got traction now, and we've got Town Square severed, and we'll be going through the zoning of it, and hopefully shovel in the ground and year to 2 years, something like that. It's really depending on the city, but it took us this long just to get it separate. I think we've been at it for 7 years since we first approached them on it. Yeah. So it's not that there's a housing shortage in Canada or anything. Take our time. Anyway, the question around that is, so that area, the north piece of it is slated to be essentially a town square feel with commercial, we call it the butcher, baker, candlestick maker, artisan type services that would service the broader community as well as our community. In order to bring those types of services into the community, we need to really allow them to do business with the outside community. And over top of that commercial / retail component, we have slated 3 stories of residential. So that it's a mixed commercial, retail, residential. The question is, will they be 55 plus? So the same as the rest of the village. The goal right now, and our objective, is to make everything 55 plus. So all the new development will be 55 plus. And we've always looked at the alternative, because in the end, it's gonna depend on the market. Can we get enough people who wanna live with us and are crazy enough to be like us? If we were to go to traditional condo in any of the buildings or any of the components, say town square, it would be a hybrid. And we've already thought this through. They'd be outside the gated area, so our gated area would still be for 55 plus lifestyle. And those gates will move around the development, but they will encompass the 55 plus lifestyle. If we had to go condo outside of that, for whatever reason, we would do a hybrid where we would allow anybody who wants to participate in the 55 plus lifestyle to have fob access to all the facilities and the gated area. So that, who knows? It's a hedging. It's not our first choice. Our first choice is all 55 plus. And then it actually makes it a lot easier for us in terms of how we gate things and so on. But we have plans and alternative plans that work both ways. Yes, and on that note, thank you, Tanya. I skipped my section. I thought I was going to get away with it, but she reminded me. There was a question as to whether we could keep the solid, dry foundation of the barn. So after that barn has to come down, and we're replacing that amenity by expanding the trillium. Tanya spoke about that. So it's coming down as part of that development. And can we keep the foundation? Certainly. I hadn't even gotten that far yet to try to get severance, but we'll certainly put it out with our engineers and our designers and see if it's something that we might be able to work around. Certainly, we would like to keep some of the components and keep the feeling here of this resort feeling of the lifestyle. It may work into it, but it's certainly a good idea, and I'll put it out to the experts on that. So the rest of the new development, so the town square, as I said, we did get our severance. We're literally we're waiting for the pin to be finalized, but we got our severance. We had to actually, just to be fair and to be honest, we had to actually take them to the OLT, so that's the provincial arm that overrides the municipality, because they just weren't doing anything. So we finally said, we like to cooperate with with the city. We have to live with them, and we have to deal with them, and we need, so we're trying to do this as friendly as possible, but we just couldn't get anywhere, and we finally just pulled the trigger on hired a lawyer, took him to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and we won, and they had to give us the severance. So that's good. It did also teach us that, unfortunately, that's just the way the city is going to require us to behave. So hopefully it doesn't reflect negatively on us that we had to do that, but I think our patience wore very thin after 7 years, and we had to move forward. So the good news is we got it. Now we just have to get through zoning, and then we'll see town square as our priority. We may see the transition from Cardinal Manzenti, so the north side of Cardinal Manzenti will be townhomes. Those are the same, they'll look exactly the same as the other side. and then it'll work its way north to the town square. So it'll probably start from both ends. Town square is a priority though. It's something that's been near and dear to my heart personally, and it's a personal mission to get it done because I think it'll just improve the quality of the lifestyle here, having that amenity, a super amenity for our residents here. CAM fees, so the question about whether the new development will pay CAM fees. And I said, of course they will, and we'll work it out. Everything we've done to redesign, and why it's put us a little behind on our accounting, is to design the system so that it can take these phases and ensure everybody's paying their fair piece of the CAM fees. So, you know, your building, your siding, your roof, your whatever, all the things that your CAM covers, all those capital improvements, we wanna make sure you're only paying for what is fair in your group of homes. So the garden homes would have its own reserve, and they pay their set of CAM fees based on all these future things, and your windows have to be replaced, and all these things that have to happen in your home. Upper Mill Pond has its own now, and that was kind of what triggered us to do that. We separated that organization as well. So the build form, the place you live, you pay for those, we can calculate that, we can be very specific. And then we have the common areas that everybody shares, and we have segregated all those costs to ensure that we know what it costs and everybody pays their fair share based on the square footage of where they live. So that's kind of where we've gone with that. Well, absolutely, the whole goal for those, the strategy here has always been to hold CAM fees as affordable as possible while balancing off what we need to get done in the community as a priority. And it's always a tug of war. But the new development will add a lot of funds into that, into the general CAM fees, which will allow us to really, first of all, share with many more people those same amenities in terms of the cost. So we should be able to keep those costs down, and that's the goal. So yes, new development will pay CAM fees, whether it's 55 plus or a condo, they will still pay it. It's not really, the only thing that changes in those two forms is whether you could live in that area and be less than, younger than 55. The Garth and Rymel section, we call the clusters. We're still in discussions with the city on that piece. They allowed us to finally separate it, gave us town square, and we're going pretty hard at getting that one done as well. That area is going to be mostly higher density, taller buildings. Out on the corner will be roughly, could be the height of the building across the street, and then work its way down towards our garden homes. But it's so early to talk about. That's kind of the vision, but we'll see what the city allows us to do and when they allow us to do it. So the whole goal is to bring more people in, share the amenities. It allows us to have more amenities at a more cost-effective price. And the models work great, and the only thing standing in our way is the city. So the sooner the better, and it can't go quick enough, and I can tell you we are working very hard at it. If I covered everything off?
Trillium?
Yeah. The Trillium renovations, so we did look at this really hard. We designed it, we have it designed, we worked with our residents committee to work our way through a design that works for you. It's a great design. We went out and priced it, and we got sticker shock. So we said, back to the board. Well, and last year, I don't know if everybody followed the construction pricing, but it got ridiculous. The prices doubled. And so the price we got said, whoa, we can't afford this. Like, we cannot afford to spend that much money on this renovation. What it prompted us to do, you might have seen it in our garden homes. Tanya spoke about it in the retirement home as well. We built our own internal trades. So we had some, and the biggest cost, really, materials are gonna be materials, is the labor. That when the labor more than doubled. So trades, for what, you know, if they did drywall for $10,000 is now $20,000, and that happened within a year. So what we've done is we brought all that in-house. We have a very large renovations crew. We have all the skills in-house to do this work. We're gonna use them to do it. They're actually just costing it right now. And we've been bringing our costs in significantly lower, and the quality of the work is about better than our trades because they're our staff. And it's been working extremely well. We're gonna use that model on this. So they're pricing it right now. Hopefully we can get in at the right price, and we can get the goal would be to get the internal parts done as quickly as possible. We have a much better, much larger, we'll talk about this when we get it back on the kind of, okay, we're going, and before we put the final stamp on it, we'll probably have a session and go over it. But it's going to have a large gathering area, so this hall, we're gonna turn this hall the other way, this wall goes, and then where the pool is, we're gonna fill it in, and we'll have a much larger area. How many can hold in? 300? That will hold 300 people, right? So it'll allow much larger gatherings more comfortably, our dinner dances and all these other things, we can have a larger versions of those, and that would be where a lot of the kind of gatherings happen. But it's also made as flex space, so it'll be used on a daily basis by splitting up the space. So we're also putting some of the things we're losing out of the barn when we lose it eventually. I think we have a pickleball court going in there, and we have some other activity, carpet bowling, and the areas for card playing, darts, like anything you did in there, we've made a space for in here. We've also putting in a theater, so hopefully that gets used significantly, and a pub. So our own pub, yeah. I saved that for the last. So it's always funny. The pub is always great because it was actually my idea originally. When we first started talking to the community about what you would like to see, a pub was the number one thing when we did the survey. We know what goes on in the village. Anyway, definitely going to be a pub here. It'll be a place that you can gather. You can bring your own drinks, and it's going to be like everything else. We're not going to have a bartender there serving it, but it'll look and feel like a pub with all the games like the darts and the pool and all that stuff, plus the tables and a lot of TV screens. And so we'll have that pub feel without the pub price of booze. It'll be your home price of booze. So I'm looking forward to it. Did I miss any of the features, just the general features? I got it all. So that's where we're going. I'm pushing as hard as I can to get it done. I'm hoping our costs come in at something that means that we can get started this year. And we'll keep you posted on that. And I'm getting the hook now from Tanya. But thank you so much. I would like to thank all the committee members and all the volunteers in the community that help make this place what it is. This committee certainly has been working with us to make ensure that we deal with the items and the issues in the village, and it's worked great. It's been a work in progress for 10 years since we came on, and the relationship is fabulous. They look after your interests, and that's a good thing. I want them to, because that's important. We want to know that what it is we have to do to ensure that this is the best place to live. So thank you very much for your time, because they volunteer a lot of time and I don't pay them. So. Oh, did I forget to tell you? Thank you very much. It's great seeing everybody out here, and we'll be talking.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Tanya. I think that your remarks were very informative for the assembled group here. We're not taking questions per se, but if you have something that you require some input from resident services, this lady talked about the siding, the hardy board. The process that we've instituted is that there's a form that is tracked, and we follow up as your committee to make sure that these guys are doing their job to answer on time, and they really are doing a tremendous job at answering the questions on time, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Kathleen is, I know it's very unlike Kathleen, but I think she wants to get up here for some reason.
While we have Brianne and Tanya, we have been working really hard at getting things efficient getting things documented and getting things addressed. In doing so, when you call in to resident services, you will be assigned, you mentioned, Tanya, the work order. You need to get a number. So make sure when you call in to get on the list, they give you a number, and I'd like somebody to clarify all that.
Brianne, you thought you were gonna get away with not addressing this assembled crowd. Here you go.
Just a quiet minute taker. Okay, so we have a computer system for our work orders or for inquiries in general. We call it SSO, and it goes to all of our maintenance staff and to the general email service request. So if you call and you say, I would like my window assessed, we will create a work order for first our maintenance staff to go out and do an assessment and make a recommendation. So maybe it's something that they can fix in that moment, like the crank on your window, great, then we would close that. If it's something larger, like your window needs to be replaced, then we would close that work order and send that off to the contractor. So the system keeps track of work orders for 1,095 days for any work order that you've ever submitted. So so either you can look it up by address, but if you want the work order number for that specific call, then you can just let us know, reference that work order, and we can pull it up right there.
And we, as a committee, will follow up, and and we do. But these guys do a great job, and I think that's something that hopefully the knowledge of this system is now getting disseminated amongst the residents here. It used to be that people just kind of assumed, oh, I phoned in and nothing happened. Well, stuff is happening, but make sure that you get that number so that if you have to come to us as a committee, we have that material to follow up on. One other thing a couple of things that I wanted to add before I disperse the crowd is first of all, as I mentioned at the outset, this meeting is taking place here today because we kind of gapped it in last October. I hope that we have the similar turnout. It might be bring your own lawn chair next October, but this is great. We're very pleased to see this turnout. I hope that we can count on the similar turnout in October, and maybe we get the same speakers back and do the same thing next. Yeah. The last thing I want to close on is that we are also performing the function of a safety committee in the village. So when you see something that you think requires attention, maybe it's a trip hazard on a street close by you or wherever, bring it to the attention of your street rep. And if you don't know your specific street rep, you can find that out through resident services, or you can call me. Did I say that? Okay, maybe don't call me. But we really want to make sure that not only it's a fun place to live, it's a safe place to live. And so please bring those safety concerns to your street reps, and that way we can track them and get them addressed. So thanks once again to our staff from Zest and Norca. And thank you as residents for attending today, and have a great rest of today, and pick a ball this afternoon at the bar.